Welcome to the session on hands-on training for the rubric creation. So this is the Google Classroom, which you are already familiar with, and yesterday we have discussed about this. So I will go through the one which I have already created yesterday. So when we go to the classwork, you know how to create assignment. So go to create, then click on the assignment. Then unless you type anything on this assignment, this rubrics will not be highlighted. So first you have to type a title. I put this as a demo 2 because we already have demo 1. I just click on demo 2 and then come to the instruction creating rubric demo. So when I type the creating rubric demo, although it is an optional one, after I type here only this becomes highlighted. So now we are going to create the rubric. So when I click on that, we have create rubric, reuse rubric, or import from sheets. This time I will just create a rubric which we will go through once again. So when I click on the rubric, the next screen comes up like this. So here we have various, the title of the rubric is the demo 2, which we have already given, and we can use it for scoring, or if we don't want to use it, then we can make it so turn off scoring. When I click on turn off, the scoring will be removed. So based on which way you want to use, you can actually highlight it. So let us click it for scoring. And the criterion one title required. So we have to give the title. This is what we have discussed. These are all the things which will go in the rows for that matrix. So the first one is let us say analysis, and this is a criterion title. And the description, someone was asking yesterday, like what about the analysis description? This description is different from the one which we will enter into the rubrics actually. So this is only for our reference purpose, like what is the title and some brief information about the title. That is the only thing here we are going to type. So analysis means this is for my reference and for the student's reference. This is not going to be used for evaluation purpose. So this is the one thing you have to remember. This criterion description does not include in the rubric formation. This is only for a reference for the people. So analysis means I will say I want to understand how to carry out analysis. Okay, so this is simply for me as information for me. So this will not go into the rubric formation. Okay, this is only the integration. And now, as I mentioned yesterday, when we are going to create the levels, the gap between the levels should be uniform. So if I give the maximum points as 5, let me put it 5. Okay, then the next level I will create can be either 4 or 3. So if I go for 3, the next level has to be 1. Okay, so we can only have 3 scales with the uniform gap. So that means when we are going to give the rubric to the students, the distance between each level, what we are going to define, has to be uniform. If you want more, this is very similar to formation of Likert scale. So you can also use 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 also is possible. Otherwise 5, 3, 1 is also possible. So the level title you can put, I will just give the information very simple, like title 1 only I will give. You can choose any of the levels, like whether you want to analyze the student's level as excellent, good, poor, like that you can use, or the best, medium, or good, or then fair or poor. So whichever way you want to put the levels, you can actually give this title. So I just put title 1, 2 and 3 only. For simplicity, I just use these things. Otherwise, you can exactly, depending on what is the requirement you have, you can specifically write the title. If we go back to the previous one, we can understand how we have done. And this title is actually the level or the scale in which you are going to analyze. So it can be, say for example, I want to write excellent. Okay, this is also title 1, excellent is fine, and the title 2 may be good, and the title 3 may be needs improvement. So these are your choice only. You can choose whatever may be the title you want. You can actually put that, and this description is the one which will go in the rubric. So excellent means that criteria we are going to use is analysis. So when we are going to use the title analysis, so what is the one we are actually going to define to the student is very, very important here. Analysis means I actually want the student to differentiate, because analysis means you are going to differentiate something. So the student make a clear distinction between 4 process, let us say. So this is the description I am going to do in the analysis part. So students are going to compare 4 different process, and they have to come out with what is the best process. So the student should make a clear distinction between 4 process. And see, the description can be the maximum if you want to put also is perfectly fine, but depending on how do you want to be too specific, you have to clearly give this description 4 process, and they need to carry out a cost benefit analysis also. So this is the one I am expecting for the student to do the analysis and come out with the they need to carry out the cost benefit analysis also between the 4 different process. And so this is, if a student can do all these things, then he will get the 5 points, or it is excellent. And if I want to go to the next one, so I simply copy this information and come to the second level and paste it. And here I will say, instead of 4, if the student can between the process, the student make a clear distinction between at least 2 process. So here I have to say something. You can say 3 process or maybe 2 process. It is your choice. How do you want to do that? You decide how do you want to do that. And if you want the cost benefit analysis also to be there, then you have to mention. If you don't want, okay, at least the 2 process they know how to differentiate, and they need to carry out cost benefit analysis, which we can actually remove it, which we don't want, say for example, because only at the excellent level we want all these things to be done. At a good level, we say the student should make clear distinction between at least, let us say, instead of 2 process, let me put 3 process. Okay, and needs improvement means we can still paste the same thing, and with a little bit modification. The student should make a clear distinction between any 2 process. Okay. So now if you want to go step by step, here the scales are uniform, but one criteria is actually present more in the case of excellent, and which is actually missing in the case of 1 and 3. So that means between the scales, we have to be very clear in defining what are the different levels we expect from the students. So, if we say cost benefit analysis has to be included for excellent, then at least they have to briefly mention something about the cost benefit in the case of level 2, or may also be in the level 1. If you really want to be very specific and be more elaborative in the cost benefit analysis, you can either include it in the same criteria in the analysis, or you can also put analysis 1, analysis 2, and in that case you can also have two different things, because here we have distinction between the process, that is one, and carrying out cost benefit analysis is another one. So, we have included two things under one single analysis category. It is your choice if you want to go with more number of things which are close enough or closely related to each other, then yes, it is possible we can include it under the same criteria. But if you want to differentiate, say for example, if you are a commerce person and you actually want to know the cost benefit analysis with elaborate discussion, then you can actually remove this part, especially the need to carry out cost benefit analysis to a separate criteria, and put it under that particular criteria what are the things you are actually expecting. So, when you are doing the cost benefit analysis, so what are all the parameters you are going to include, and how many parameters, how you are going to do the comparison, whether it is monetary based or whether it is society's benefit you are looking at. So, those kind of elaborative things you can do if you are a commerce or economics person, or maybe if it is a simple process, maybe an engineering project, or maybe similar process. Say for example, if the students are asked to compare between 2 or 3 different processes in a chemical process, then they don't have to do a very elaborate cost benefit analysis. They can simply say like, okay, this particular process requires very cheap raw materials, the other process requires prolonged or a longer reaction time, or a batch conversions, or the yields of the process is poor. So like that we can have various parameters which can be included in the cost benefit analysis separately. So, this is your choice as the teacher's choice, whether you want to combine 1 or 2 criteria under a single category, or you want to include them separately. Okay. So, this is your choice. You can actually decide on how to do that, and I have just included here 2 things together, so that the excellent, if a student has to get excellent, then they have to carry out an elaborate analysis. And here in the good case, we can say the student should make a clear distinction between any 2 process. He may include cost benefit analysis. So here it may be possible if the student includes, or if he doesn't include, that is also fine. So that clear-cut distinction you can say. But now when you are doing okay, it is included or it is not included, then there is going to be a major problem with the students, because some students say, sir, I did not write, then other person say, I wrote, so I put extra effort, so my extra effort is not being considered here. So these kind of discrepancies will always arise. So when we are creating the rubric, we should not give opportunity for these kind of uncertainties during the analysis process. So here we have to specifically mention he should include, instead of he may include, we have to say he should. So that means this clearly tells, instead of 4 process comparison, here they are doing a comparison between 3 process. Still we want the student to include the cost benefit analysis also. So the distinction here is very small, because we are going to do a comparison for 4, and another case we are going to comparison between 3. Do you think this is a good enough gap for the students to be put at different scales? You have to decide. So if you think, okay, 4 is fine, and maybe the next scale should be at 2 and not 3, then you can also change this to 3. Instead of 3 process comparison, you can also put 2 process comparison. So how do you want to separate the scale is based on your completely your choice. So if you want, since you know how the students are there, maybe from the first year, you know there are going to be 20% of the students who are really good, and 30% of the students are moderate. If you want to see the difference between these two categories very clearly, then whether the 20% of the people can perform excellent, or they are well above the average, or maybe they are at 80% your expectation. So based on that, you can actually keep the levels. Okay, so it is the teacher's choice to put the different levels, and at the needs improvement level, we can say a student has to put a clear distinction between any two process. So here we know the students are not up to the mark because they need improvement. So we can say the cost benefit analysis may or may not be included. Again, we cannot give two different things. We have to be very clear that yes, you have to include, or no, you don't need to include. Then it is going to be uniform for all the students. So this is how we actually create the levels, different levels. Once the different levels are created, I simply put save. Here we have only created one rubric. So here if you look at the rubric with one criterion with the 5 points. So this is how we actually completed our creation of the rubric. And once this is created, I am going to assign this to the student. So now here it is given all students. Actually, I don't want all the students to get it, because since this is a demo, I just want it to be restricted to only one single student. So I will just put it as I delete all the students, and I'll go to myself, and there is only one student, and then so there is only one student I am going to assign. So here you can mention all these things which are already familiar to you. So how many points you want to give. So do you want 100 points or ungraded? You can actually change the points here. And what is the due date? You can fix. What is the topic? If it comes under a particular topic, you can also mention the topic here. And then you can actually assign this to the students. So simply the moment you say assign, it will be given to the students. So the demo 2 is now assigned to the student. And let me go to the, so if I go to the stream, it will come up in our main classroom, like this is assigned to one student and assigned to one. So this information actually comes up. So this also tells you, okay, the student had actually been assigned to this particular announcement. So this is the second login from the student. Okay, so this is my student login, and when I go to the student login, so here you will see assigned. Okay, this comes up on the screen telling that it is assigned. So now what the student has to do? The student has to click on this rubric. So what is the rubric? The student actually knows. Then he has to submit this assignment. So that the student will actually follow how it has to be done. So once the student completes the assignment, he has to go to the classwork, and this is the second one. So he clicks on this, view the assignment, and he can go and if you want to see, this is what someone was asking, private comments are only visible to you and your teacher. So you can actually make a private comment specifically, and when we are making the private comment, it is not seen by the other people. So let me add okay, what comment I am going to send to the teacher. When should I submit? Okay, this is the one I am sending to the teacher. It's a private comment. So I have sent it to my teacher, and if I go to the teacher's login and in the classwork, if I look at, so here we only will see like the student's comment is given here. When should I submit? Okay, so this is how the comments will show up in your screen. Once the student writes, you only can see this, and if you click on that, so there is one private comment, when should I submit. So now I add a private comment by tomorrow. Okay, now I have sent it to the student. See, now you see here, by tomorrow, the two private comments are there. So this actually had shown up, by tomorrow you have to submit. So this way the interaction between the student and teacher is going to be private only. And the next thing what we have to do is like how the student actually works on it. So here, add or create. So once the assignment is given, student has to submit it. So click on that, and as I had shown, the student can actually create a document file and attach it. So let us see how he is creating the file and attaching. So this is a test reply. So the student completes the assignment, and here we have share or turn in. So I click on turn in. So if it is done within the Google setup, everything is actually integrated. And now the student, this is the student screen. So here we can see turn in. So do you want to turn in the work? Click turn in. Okay, now the student has submitted. Okay, let us go to the teacher's account, and let us go to the so here if you see the student work, it is turned in. Okay, when I click on turned in, so this is the document which was turned in by the student. So once I click on that, okay, the document is now seen. Okay, so this is the student name and who are turned in. So those informations are available here, and on the right hand side we have our rubric for grading. So this is the analysis part. Once you click on that, all the 5 points or 3 points, whatever we had given, will pop up, and you go through this, and now you decide, okay, how much marks I am supposed to give. See here, student did not write anything. So let us say needs improvement. I just click on this one, and this is one way of entering the information, or you can also type in the numbers here. Okay, so that is also possible. And say for example you want to change this one, you can keep on changing it. Okay, so then whichever way you want, you can actually modify the rubrics or grading. So this is actually the grading point we are doing it. So let us say needs improvement, and then it is saving it. So once it is done, you see exactly how much grade the student got. So And here also you can add a private comment to the student directly. So that means it is actually between you and this particular student only. It is not to be seen by the entire class. And say here I put you need to work hard. So this is the private statement I am entering. Say post the private information, and this is one separate step, and returning the grading is another one. So click on return. So it asks the graded assignment is sent back to the student. Okay, it is done now. And let us come to the student thing. So now turn in your work. So after the assignment is returned by the teacher, now we will see the student's screen, the analysis. So this is 1 point. Title needs improvement. So that means student can actually come back to their thing and see that. And there is a private message. So you need to work hard. That is also appearing here. So this way we can actually use the rubric to grade the assignments and give a specific comments. And as I mentioned, creating the rubric, we have seen the theoretical aspect what are required. So before you do something, I will always recommend you that you take a piece of paper and write it down. What is the learning outcome you are going to study? So that will go into the criterion. And as I mentioned today, if you look at yesterday's one and today's one, today we have not done elaboratively on the description and the levels. That is because we are just going directly on the online mode. I don't have any pre-planned way of how I am going to evaluate. So when we directly do it, it may take longer time for us to even think about something and start doing it. So it is always better you take a piece of paper and make this chart beforehand. And once you finalize this chart, enter the information in the rubrics. So that way you will have plenty of freedom or flexibility to modify the entire rubric, and it can be done very quickly. Otherwise it will take a lot of time if you are sitting in front of the computer and start thinking, okay, what I have to put in the level 3 or what I should put in the level 5 or what is the description I have to give. So all these things are time consuming, and it is always better you take a piece of paper, look at your learning outcome. Based on the learning outcome, identify the criteria or the parameters what you want to evaluate, and identify all the parameters first or the criteria first, and then decide what are all the different levels you want to do. See, it is also possible for some criteria you can have more than 3 levels. For some criteria you can have only 2 levels. So this is your choice. How do you want to know? And sometimes you can also do like yes or no type, whether the student wrote that particular thing or did not write that thing. So there are only 2 levels. That also you can actually decide on. So it's your choice of identifying the criteria for the rubric, and the level also you can decide depending on the complexity of the project, depending on how much you want the student to perform. You can be much more elaborate, or you can be very short also, brief also. And if you have very too much information on the rubric, basically the students also get bored because they cannot go through reading too many text. So making a concise but to the point rubric is very, very essential. If you have any doubts or other things, you can actually email me. I think I have shared my email address with other people. So you can also go to Google and just type Balaji JNU. So the first one comes up is So because there are two Balajis are there, so you can actually type SBT School of Biotechnology. My email address is given here, and my mobile number, I think some of you already know, otherwise I will just type in here also, like 95996555942. so this is my mobile number, and my email address, university email address is given here, and Yahoo address is also given here. So those who are interested can actually email me or ask any of your doubts if you have. So thank you very much.